when I was 19, I was in a car accident and it fractured my back.
Mm.
It strained a lot of the muscles in my upper back. I was in physical therapy for 7 months. I was only 19. My physical therapist at the time said, you will need to be a bodybuilder for the rest of your life to keep from having too much pain in your back. At 19, so this is in the 90s, we didn't have social media. We didn't have YouTube. I lived in a tiny country town. It was not, women didn't lift weights, where I was. Back then, it just wasn't a trend like it is now. So I didn't really understand what he meant by that, but I went to the gym. I had to ask mostly men. There was one female in there that lifted weights. She was older than me. So I had to ask the old timers, how do I do this? How do I do that? And then I would have to watch them. And then I was getting like the magazines, muscle and fitness magazines, all those magazines, because we didn't have, Instagram.
Right. Yeah.
So I was just learning sort of in a way self-taught, I guess, just trying to figure it out. And then I realized I loved it. And then off and on through the years, I was always really active, always played sports, even as an adult. I played softball, bowling leagues, volleyball. I just love sports. So I was always really active, but I didn't understand the bodybuilding part. So it was off and on, and then, married, having kids and life, and not consistent. And I was always in a lot of pain, just, chronic pain. So the doctors diagnosed me with, arthritis and bursitis and fibromyalgia. And I was taking all of these medications, to manage that. So it wasn't until about 6.5 years ago, I started having severe knee pain. And I went to the doctor and he says, we're going to need to put you on some immunosuppressants. I think it's arthritis. And I was really tired of taking medication. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I was tired of it. So I told him, I said, I really would like to lift weights again. Like, I would like to be able to do that. And he kind of laughed at me and he said, you'll never be able to lift weights again. So right then it was like, okay, you watch, watch me. And so I got back in the gym about 6.5 years ago. Fast forward maybe 2 years, I passed my NASM certification to be a personal trainer. And I just really fell in love with it. So the bodybuilding part, I always said I would never do because I felt like it was extreme. I felt like it was unhealthy. I didn't understand everything about it, but what I knew about it felt, I guess, dangerous, and it can be if you don't do it the right way, However, my oldest son passed away suddenly 3 years ago. And when he passed away, I knew immediately that I needed to do something. It's you're either going to fall apart or you have to sort of like turn your heartache into something positive. That pain has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm going to compete. And I just said, that's what I'm going to do. So I met my trainer at the gym, and he's a very successful bodybuilder himself, natural bodybuilder. And I started working with him and just kind of, it's really easy when you're angry or frustrated or heartbroken to like lift heavy weights, like when you're angry, like that's a good way to take it out,
Oh, yeah.
So, I just put all my focus, I put my focus there. I have 2 other little kids at home that I'm homeschooling. We own a business, a construction business. So it was just really just a way to sort of like honor my son's life, by living well and not falling apart and not, neglecting my other kids. I mean, it was horrible. So I knew I needed to do something. And so that's when I decided to start competing.
Yeah. My condolences to your son. How old was he?
Thank you. He was 24.
Oh,
He
wow.
was 24. Yeah,
Wow.
he had just retired from the Marines. He was a
Oh,
Marine.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and he had retired and he had plans to go to college, and he, according to everyone that he served with, he was exceptional. He was a wonderful person, and he was a great Marine. He was very
Yeah.
well respected.
Yeah.
So it was a huge loss for a lot of people. And so, especially when someone so good is taken away so soon, I feel like it's so important to honor them, and there's not really anything you can do that sort of makes up for it, but I really want people around me to see, and I want my little kids to see, that the worst thing in the world can happen to you, but God is still good and life is still good, and there's still reasons to smile. There's
Right.
still reasons for me to live.
Right.
There's still, life is still beautiful. And
Yeah.
my son would want me to achieve my goals and would want me to be happy. And so that's really sort of my testimony, and I
Yeah.
love it when people ask me what got into it, because I get to talk about him, but also just, sometimes life is like really, really shitty and
Right.
you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, you can fall apart or you can choose to do something positive.
Yeah.
So I hope that other people can be, inspired by that, because, it really is just a choice. I mean, I can't change that he's gone. I can't change that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being
Everything
miserable is
happens.
not.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard, like everything happens for, we're not here in a, it's temporary. We're here temporary. We just
Yes.
don't, you know.
Yes. This is not our home. And,
Yeah.
I, of course I'm upset and of course I'm heartbroken,
Of
but I'm here
course.
for a reason. And,
Yeah.
life is too good for me to not, life is too good, you know,
Yeah.
I need to live and live well.
Yeah.
And so, and I love lifting weights. I really love it. And I love all of the little accomplishments. You bump the weight up 5 pounds on your chest press, and it's like, yay, it's like super amazing, like I did it. So it's fun. It's just,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, like in the gym, like what's your favorite thing you like to do, like in terms of like body parts, like you like working out on?
So right now it's kind of a newer thing for me, but right now it's my bench press, chest press.
Yeah.
So I don't do barbell bench press only because I don't want to ask for a spot. And you can't really progress in the weight unless you have a spot. I'm not going to hurt myself. So I use a machine that's there's control there. I'm not going to hurt myself.
Yeah.
But that's been like really fun. Like, most women don't, they don't want to lift, but you need this muscle to support your back, to support your neck, it all has to work together. So it's helped my back a lot too. So it's been really fun. I
Yeah.
really like it.
Yeah, you got a guest. You have Jessica in the house. Jessica, hi, mom. She said hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Like, did your daughter like learn from you? Like did she like follow you to the gym or anything like that?
So we have workout equipment at home, and I will catch them wanting to learn to do stuff. And of course, I'm all about physical activity, and I homeschool, so I make them do stuff all the time. Sometimes we'll do little workouts. We shoot a lot of hoops, play
Okay.
frisbee, we're very active. And so I hope that they will sort of, I have a boy and a girl, little ones. So I
Okay.
hope they'll follow along, I mean, when I was growing up, I grew up in a situation that was not ideal. I had a really rough childhood.
Yeah.
And so I wish that I would have had an outlet. And so I think it's important for kids, they need to move, they need to be outside, they need to play outside, which is something that's just it's not as common these days.
Yeah. A lot of social media stuff,
Well, you saw my
and
daughter, she's
yeah,
in the
yeah,
other room. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
How was like your first preparing for your first show? Like,
Um, so being natural, I feel like, and my coach is he's very aware of health and even just mental health. He's very, because it can be very taxing just mentally, and then you have the body dysmorphia, some days you feel really heavy and nothing fits, and then other days you feel really skinny, and
yeah,
you really have to be strong mentally. So it was definitely a learning process, especially, it was a challenge gaining weight on purpose. And, you've probably heard other people say, like, the bulking phase is really hard,
yeah,
forcing yourself to eat,
yeah. And
you know.
natural bodybuilding, you a natural bodybuilding, yeah,
Yes. So
yeah,
I mean, the eating, that was the hard part, just eat, and then gain weight. And then, but I mean, I knew I was doing it for a reason. So, and I'm 45. So it wasn't like I was, in my
mm,
20s. And, it was tough, but I was okay with it because I had a goal, and like, I'm going to reach my goal,
yeah,
so yeah.
yeah,
So it was fun. And then, um, getting to the show was, it was really interesting because I do have a lot of anxieties and a lot of social anxiety, but I was not nervous at all. I was really surprised. I was really
that's
surprised. I just, I remember getting to the hotel when it was the day before the show and seeing all of these other athletes. They all
yeah,
look so amazing. And like, I was like, starstruck, like, wow, I'm surrounded by all of these other people that have the same mindset, the same work ethic, and they all, we all love this. And it's like a, cool little club,
yeah, yeah,
it was so fun. I loved it. It was great.
yeah. What division you're in?
So I'm in figure.
Okay, I figured that.
Yeah. Yeah. So when my coach asked me, what division do you want to compete in? And I was already thinking figure, just because I already had a lot of muscle, especially on my upper
Yeah,
body.
yeah,
I'm muscular. And he said, and this is not to take away from any other competitors at all. He just said, your personality and your body type, and with your muscle, he said, you're definitely not a bikini girl. He said, I think you're a figure.
yeah,
I'm short. I'm only 5'1". I'm not tall and lean with, long, lean legs, long torso. I have shorter torso. So, and then, I naturally build muscle fairly easily, especially,
mm,
I think, for being older. It's genetically, I'm more inclined to put on muscle, especially in my upper body. So I didn't want to back off, and
yeah,
I love lifting. So I'm like, I'm going to lift as heavy as I can, and whatever look comes with that, that's the look.
yeah. When Jessica says we're not little,
Oh my gosh.
someone else is watching, I think. Yeah, yeah. Like, that kind of interests me. Like, when you went to go see the doctor, years ago, and he said that you would have to be a bodybuilder. What was your thoughts on that? Like, what
didn't
is the
really.
psychic or something?
Well, I knew he was. I mean, I knew what weightlifting was,
Yeah.
and then so my first, I grew up in a tiny town in Texas, and no one around me, you know, they didn't really care about what they ate. They didn't exercise. It just wasn't.
Mm.
That just wasn't how we. I don't know about you, but that was not how